Kristen Rickman is with the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. I got to tell you something. I'm going to throw another issue at her, what we were going on through here. I wonder if they were at all aware of what was happening here with the rescue. There was a
Road to
debacle here, which, by the way, if you notice that Laney's Army page has closed to the public now because I think they were getting so many negative comments. Anyway, Kristen is with PETA. Good morning, Kristen. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. I want you to know I'm going to say this right up front, and this is mainly for the benefit of my audience. Years ago, I used to bring on, and this goes way back, I used to bring on people from PETA, and I would just fight with you. And because some of my philosophies are much different than yours, I just want you to know that. And it just became, I don't know, maybe I've just gotten old, and these fights don't entertain me as much as they used to. So I'm not going to ask you about if there was a puppy in the pond along with a baby, which one would you save? I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to do any of this ridiculing you and calling you crazy or anything like that. I want you to know, so the audience should not be expecting some sort of a ridiculous interview because I'm not going to do it with you. I will respect you and your beliefs.
I appreciate that.
Even though I think you're crazy or something. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Little joke there.
You're going to say a hoot owl because hoot owls are in trouble.
They're endangered, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. Hoot owl. Okay, Kristen. In Syracuse, they're luring in the deer, and they're doing it with a feeding program. And when they get there, they're bringing in sharpshooters, and they're going to shoot and kill the deer. Now, they will save the deer for meat. It'll be donated to charity, I believe, is what they're planning to do. But you guys at PETA are certainly very bothered by this. And why? Many people will call this a humane act because of the overpopulation. So
no, it's most certainly not humane. The main problem with any lethal initiative that is a misguided attempt to control wildlife populations is that lethal initiatives simply don't work. Basic population ecology tells us that when you remove individual animals from the area, it causes a spike in the food supply. So you have the remaining animals and the inevitable newcomers who still come in to consume the available resources breed at an accelerated rate, and that results in more deer. And this is evident because it's been, how many years has it been that different municipalities in New York have been killing deer in an attempt to control their numbers, and it simply hasn't worked.
Should we spay and neuter the deer?
Oh, that's an interesting.
Actually, there are some deer contraceptives. That's not something that PETA necessarily recommends because in most cases, you have a municipality who's going to want to see an immediate improvement, and they can't wait for the birth control to work. So although that does exist and some areas are using it, what actually works is eliminating food sources, artificial food sources, and making the area unattractive to them by managing the vegetation as well as by installing or implementing some deterrence.
Okay.
You know, when there's too many of them, they're all over the roads.
And that's dangerous.
And, people die in car accidents when they hit these deer, especially when they're all over the place. When you say this isn't humane, I just think...
But I'm not sure that you said it wasn't as much that it's not humane as you
say
it's not effective. You don't believe it's effective. That's a different approach. It's hard to argue with that approach because we all know the problem is... But if you have an overpopulation of deer in Syracuse and in more of a city setting, without eliminating those deer or herding them up and transporting them somewhere else, you have to somehow address the immediate problem. How do you address the immediate problem?
So the immediate problem being deer being struck by vehicles, collisions.
It's that. It's
that they're all over the place. They're in your backyard carrying disease around with them.
The tick problem is a huge problem up here.
Now, actually, that is a myth. They do carry ticks, but the incidence of Lyme disease amongst those animals is much lower than people think. But when you say they're everywhere, well, yes, they are everywhere because we have encroached upon all the wild spaces, and they have nowhere left to go.
That is
so
true.
we have to remember that they were there, and we moved in.
This is where the argument
so we
gets
have destroyed
off
their
the
habitat.
track.
And
that basically
other thing
human
that we
life
have
is
to
less
remember
valuable
is-
than deer.
I'm sorry?
I was making I think this is where the argument goes way sideways. Where basically a deer's lifestyle, their what's the word I want to use? Their quality of life is more valuable than that of a human.
Are you
And I just
saying
think
that?
that's
Is that what
insane.
you?
No.
That's
No,
what are you
I'm
saying?
not. But if you'd let me just make my point,
Okay,
I'll
sure.
come around to that.
All right.
So what I was going to say is I just want people to – we just need to come first to an understanding that we do need, to some degree, to learn to coexist with these animals. Otherwise, the answer is that they simply will not exist. And if we make wildlife not exist, we're going to screw up our ecosystem to where none of us can exist.
Okay. I will tell you that the issue, like in the more rural areas, when it comes to deer population, the DEC will come in and issue an extended hunting license, an extended additional hunting opportunities, and they'd extend the season for hunting, and that works. But in a more of a city metropolitan setting like Syracuse, it becomes a real problem because you can't have. There's no hunting season for deer in the city. You can't have people shooting. This is why they're bringing in sharpshooters.
Right.
Because in the other parts of the state, it's already being controlled through hunting, and we're killing those deer through sport. And I don't know of a single deer hunter that isn't excited about taking home that deer and utilizing the meat and for their family.
Really.
Yeah. Are you against hunting, that sort of thing?
Yes, PETA is opposed to hunting.
Okay.
I can explain that. I would still like to address the deer vehicle collisions because that was brought up and I didn't get a chance to.
Well, that's a real problem. I'm going to tell you something. I drive oftentimes Cooperstown. I'm sure you're familiar with Cooperstown, New York, home of the Baseball Hall of Fame, a lovely little village. Mm-hmm. And driving there, it is so dangerous. Especially in August, September, October, it's so dangerous as the deer are. You'll see 100 deer on your way on a 35-mile trip. Coming back from Lake Placid, I did that just a while back. I must have seen 75 deer on my way home. It was unbelievable, and it's extremely dangerous in a highway setting.
Yes, so deer vehicle collisions are tragedies. And certainly no one wants that to happen. And the way that can be monitored and controlled is to make sure to take statistics as to where these collisions are happening and to trim back vegetation so that there's higher visibility, and then to install 10-foot deer fences that will prevent them from crossing in those particular problem areas. And then obviously they're going to cross somewhere or another. So then in the areas where you have installed fence and then areas where they're going to cross, make sure to put up deer crossing signs, which perhaps are already there. And then folks definitely need to be slowing down and being very vigilant in those areas.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that. I'm not slowing down. It's not going to happen. I got to get from point A to point B. I got to move. How do you pay for this? Because I got to tell you, having hunters pay for licenses and going out and shooting the deer versus putting the money together to build all these fences. And also it takes away the beautification of the Adirondack Park. I mean, we're smack dab in the middle of this up here.
Right, I understand that. And we do need to strike a balance between the beautification of the park and the safety of motorists. But certainly you made the point that deer lives are not more important than human lives. And I would certainly say that the beauty of the park is not more important than human lives because the deer are going to exist. They are going to be there, and they are going to cross the road. Unless you eliminate all of them, which I don't think anyone wants.
No, nobody wants.
They're going to cross the road, so you do need to take steps to make that safe.
There's a mountain lion somewhere in the area, in the region up here. Mountain lions used to be prevalent here, but we kind of drove them off. But there are now, there was a mountain lion, a real mountain lion. Can you imagine that? That mountain lion, Kristen, would eat you up for dinner. And I saw a skunk in my backyard.
Yes.
I had a skunk in my backyard just roaming around. I don't know if it was rabbit or something. It was yesterday afternoon.
Ooh,
not
that's
good.
not good.
Anyway, Kristen, I will say this. Syracuse is going to do this thing. What are you guys going to do? They're going to bring out the sharpshooters. They're going to kill these deer. How will PETA react?
I just found out about this last night, so we still have to discuss that. And there may be someone already working on that. But certainly we will get in touch with them and provide the deer management PDF file that we have that has tips that can be implemented to control deer in non-lethal methods.
All right, Kristen. Kristen Rickman is from the People for Ethical Treatment for Animals. Kristen, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
I thought this was pleasant. It wasn't bad, right? It wasn't painful.
Yeah, no, it was fine. I've had worse.
We'll talk about you when you're gone.
Please do. That's what we want.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
All right, 8:39. Hold on tight. I got a break. Listen, it does not. They would. Could you imagine taking her hunting with you and shooting and killing a deer, gutting the deer right out there in the middle of the woods, putting it around your back and carrying the thing home or whatever you would do. Maybe you don't gut it out on the field. Maybe you gut it when you get back.
Oh no, you do. You
Some
do it
do.
all right there.
She'd be crying her heart out. She would be lost. It would be, how dare you? Yeah, she'd go to Old Forge where the deer will walk right up to you in Old Forge. It's crazy. You ever see that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They want to get fed.
And that's illegal to feed them because they don't want that. It's not good. It's a problem.
Especially you're feeding them from the car on the side of the road, and that just makes them more prone to run to the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a break.